Well, everybody, welcome to Give Mike a Mic Reloaded. We have an amazing show for you today. Thank you for tuning in, and make sure you're following us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, where we're at, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you can listen to podcasts. That's where you're going to be. That's where I'm going to be. YouTube, whatever. Just follow us, look at my face, and give me likes and shit, because that's what people do nowadays. So that's a quick intro. I will put a real intro in later, but whatever. We're here with some special guests of mine to talk about some very special documentaries that we just saw. So before we get into it, of course, I'm going to introduce our host with the most. Of course, is me, Michael. You're welcome. I am Michael. And I am joined, as always, by my brother, Alex. Alex, say what's up. Yeah,
what's
there
up,
he
guys?
is. He's waving. What's up? Along with us, we normally have, some Dominicans, some Ecuadorians, and other Puerto Ricans.
Some plátanos.
Some plátano maduros, yes. But unfortunately, they could not make it. Well, actually, fortunately, because I didn't invite them, because I feel like Jay would also have another heart attack on this podcast. Because we attacked his politics last time. This one will be his religion, so I don't want to put him in this position. So instead, we have some very, very, very special guest. Okay, so first off, I'm going to invite one of our oldest friends to come on the mic and introduce himself. You may know him if you're from Orlando. You know him because he is all over the city. He is the host of Orlando House Party. If you have not heard of it or gone to it, go check it out. He is also the host of Keeping It Rosy podcast. He is also a great hairstylist who has been styling my hair since I was just a little boy. This guy
cutting me up since high school days.
For real, in his mom's shop. His mom's Dominican shop. So you think about all those Dominican shops that people talk about? I was there.
Bro, not even. He was cutting me in Jorgito's backyard.
Yeah, see, that's OG. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
OG. From humble beginnings to $1 million shops in downtown Orlando. We have the one and the only Frank Rose. Frank Rose, let us know. Wait, actually, Frank Rose, hold on.
I don't have friends. I got family.
That's perfect. That's perfect.
That should have been your intro, yeah.
Yo, first of all, thank you for having me. Which is weird to say because this is just what we do on a regular weekend. Just drink and hang out and talk. I'm Frank Rose. I forgot I did half of those things. You forgot that I'm also the owner of Runway Events, and I also officiate weddings, and I also officiated Stephanie and Alex weddings. So, you know what I mean? I'm a man of many skills,
Your resume is too long to even put on this podcast.
It is way too long.
It would be an entire podcast just of your accomplishments and your doodads and dreams. Okay? I don't have time for that right now. Doodads and dreams.
Yeah.
But just give us a little, how you feeling? How's the podcast going? How's life going for you? A lot of changes on that. You have been an inspiration for us in many different ways. I've been trying to get you on this podcast for a long time already. It only took us 51 episodes, but here we are. So, and then, how many episodes have you listened to, Frank Rose, of the Give Mike a Mic podcast?
Oh, I knew that was going to happen.
I ask everybody that comes on here. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. 5.
More than Jay, at least.
More than Jay, at least.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Sure. There we go.
Actually, no, Jay's catching up. He has a 6-hour commute to and from Atlanta, so he's been listening to the podcast all the time. So thank you, perfect. Jay, for catching up. Frank, I don't know what your excuse is, but
no, my excuse is this. I walk to work now, so I don't really sit in my car for a long period of time.
You don't have
literally
AirPods?
Only walked to work for maybe
But okay,
2 weeks.
even before that. That, I drove 10 minutes to work. So, podcasts are longer than 10 minutes, longer than 15. Okay. And if in traffic is 20 minutes for me?
Sure.
That's the life that I'm in. That's the hell that God put me in.
Oh,
just kidding.
Did he put a song in your heart as well on that hill?
See what
you did. You like it? All right.
See what you did there.
Oh, Frankie, thank you for once again coming on the podcast. And then this is a very special treat because we have not been able to convince a female to even come on this podcast. So that's problem number one. Problem number 2.
I wonder why.
I don't know. It's surrounded by penises everywhere. So here's the thing. This is going to be a great podcast because we have a female perspective. So all the female listeners that are out there, all 33% of you, this podcast will be directed to you as well because we have this other perspective here. This is a person that also has a long resume of things that we could be all podcasts here doing, including being a mother, a wife, a sister, and a confidant of many things. She's also works for
That's
a school. She does some photography, Steffi V photos and all that, you know what I'm saying? So Stuffy Films,
That's
right?
not even my.
Stuffy
It's not
photos,
even my
Steph photos?
ad.
Steph, what? Oh, I didn't put
They're
anybody's
all-
ads.
I know, but it's funny because
I'm gonna give you your ads at the end. At the end, you're gonna plug your stuff. Yes,
you can
ads
add the correct ad at the end.
Yes,
She
I'm
also
just-
has her own podcast.
I do
which
have my own podcast.
Should be starting up
that
again
should
soon.
restart.
How many episodes did you do of that podcast? By the way,
Oh my god, 4.
okay, so that's good.
4. And then
But
I took a
also
hiatus.
all female podcast, right? You haven't had any males.
I have
on
not had any males.
there? Excellent, great. That's what we like to hear. We screw the males. We have enough male podcasts out there. We need that female
Honestly,
perspective. Yeah.
Men should not have microphones. Aside from, some of your episodes are questionable, but this one's fine.
Most of them are very questionable, so I agree with that. That's fine.
I encourage the listeners to rewind just one episode.
Just one. That's all.
Just one.
So we have Stephanie Vivaldi. That's weird to say. It's still weird after all these years that
I think so.
Frankie has married them. But Alex, my brother, is on here, and his wife Stephanie is on here. So that's who you see on the screen and here in your wonderful headphones or car, wherever you're at. Stephanie, would you like to say anything to the wonderful listeners out there that you are gracing your presence with?
I tried to get out of this, and you wouldn't let me. All of you collectively.
We manipulated you.
We
It's actually no. I was gonna make a dumb joke about this podcast episode, but no, I am very much here. What's it called? Not against my will. I have things that I have
Amen.
thoughts. I have thoughts that I
Amen.
would like to share,
Amen.
and I tried to chicken out. And I thank you all for keeping me accountable, or what's it called?
Organs.
Having my back. Yeah, I know. That's exactly what I saw.
Play some Labyrinth in the background.
Pads.
Elaborate.
I'm tired.
I'm tired. You guys are gonna make me cry already. I love that fucking song. Stephanie,
my
let's
God.
cover it.
Anyway, I'm not prepared, so I'm
It's
just
okay.
happy to be here, guys.
Sorry, we're happy to have you. We have a
Happy to be the first female pioneer. of
correct.
Give Mike a mic
that
reloaded.
deserves
Would you like a
hand
frozen
clap. I
grape?
appreciate that.
a basic bitch grape.
It's a frozen grape. It's not basic. It's been
Frozen grapes are amazing. First of all, they're amazing. They really are.
Thank
It
you.
is a great snack. It is. Yeah. But you know what's also a great snack? Hillsong Church. So here we're gonna talk about.
I think Carl Lent is a great snack.
Ooh, Carl Lenz is a snack. There you go.
No.
Oh, gross.
Yes.
All right, here we go.
Too
So
soon or too late?
yes, it is too soon or too late. Yeah, maybe. So we're gonna get right into it.
Too late.
We had the pleasure and the awesome opportunity to watch Hillsong Expose, Megachurch Expose, I think it was called, right? Hillsong,
Yeah.
A Megachurch Expose.
Mhm.
Of course, it's available for everyone, so it's just not us special people that watched it. But we found it and we saw it, and that's where we're at here. So this is available on Discovery Plus. I don't know anybody who really has Discovery Plus, but I signed up for the 7-day trial just to watch this documentary and canceled
I
it.
signed up for it twice.
Oh, wow, because you
A
didn't finish it the
trial.
first time? Yeah.
No, I signed up for 2 separate trials just so Alex could rewatch
Oh, so
the
he
last
could rewatch it.
episode today.
Gotcha.
I had to leave at one point to get like food, and I thought I missed something, and then I rewatched again. And I was like, "Oh, I didn't miss anything." But so
Hey,
I,
but it
I
was
made
free.
myself watch it and again, and it was even more disturbing the second time. So yeah,
Oh, all right. Well, there you go. So, in case you don't know, this documentary, again, Discovery Plus, go watch it. You can get a free trial, I think, on Amazon. That's how I got mine, or a free trial thing on Discovery. But you can stream it straight on Amazon. So, go watch it if you haven't seen it yet. But basically, it's a 3-part documentary series that really talks about Hillsong Church. If you're not familiar with what Hillsong Church is or who they are a church that was formed in Australia back in, I believe, 1983. It was actually my birth year. So happy birthday to me. Hillsong Church formed in Australia in 1983, and it was founded by a Pentecostal pastor by the name of Frank Houston. Frank Houston and Pentecostal churches, of course, many of us here. That's why I'm actually very happy that everybody's here, because we were all raised in churches. Yes, all of us born and raised, baptized in the Holy Ghost and Spirit and dirty pools, and we are alive and kicking still and not sick. Jesus loves us still. But we have a lot of perspectives. A lot of us grew up in different aspects of the church. Some of us were pastors' kids. Some of us were worship kids. Some of us were just haircut kids. Like it just happens. Our dads
Listen,
were.
he's a Koro kid.
All right, yeah, Koro kid. Yes, exactly. That's what I was gonna
kid.
say. I was getting that. I was getting
Yeah.
to that with his dad.
Choir
Yes,
boy.
yes, and your dad is amazing. He has the voice of an angel.
To demonstrate that dance move.
There you go. Do it.
There it is.
That's it.
The daddy dance move. Love it. His voice is like a combination of Fergie and Jesus. So thank your dad for us for gracing us with that. Yeah, appreciate that. So we did have a few different perspectives from the church aspect of this. So I wanted to bring my friends and family on here because I think there's a lot of stuff that was touched on in this documentary that a lot of people probably were not aware of. A lot of people know Hillsong Church. I actually used to go to Hillsong Church in New York for about two years, I want to say. So I knew of Pastor Carl Lentz and different things very well. I started going there, I think 2014 when I moved up to New York to be the flight attendant thing, and left there in 2016 when I moved back down to Florida. So I was there, not every Sunday religiously, but every month at least. I just had to find out where they're at because they moved to different places. They had a ballroom one time, then they moved to the PlayStation Theater, where they had a bigger venue, obviously, because they were filling up their Sundays very quickly, all their services, for good reason, because they were looked up as a celebrity church and a big church in New York. Of course, back then you had people starting to come to their church, like Justin Bieber, Kevin Durant, one of the Jonas brothers, Nick Jonas, I think it was. So you had different people that would come in and do that. I'm skipping
Kanye
way
West.
ahead. Kanye West, yes. I'm skipping way ahead, of course, on this, but just to let you know, I do have some background, or have been attended services there at Hillsong, New York, with Carl Lentz on that. So I'm going to break this documentary down. It's a 3-part documentary. And we'll kind of break each part of it deals with a certain subject or different people, different spotlights of Hillsong and what it came to be on that. Okay. But before we get into that, I'm going to get everybody's opinions on
before we get into that, we should
ahead.
pray, right?
Stop.
Sorry. I'm sorry. I grew up in church. I got nothing but church jokes.
Frankie, do you want to lead some prayer today?
Dear Lord, Heavenly Father, thank you for this podcast. Okay.
I was like, are we really going to pray?
Thank you for these frozen grapes.
Can we put a disclaimer over here? Can we just put a disclaimer at the beginning of this that we all still very much love Jesus?
Amen.
Despite...
Amen.
Disclaimer.
No, but I'm saying, despite whatever is shared in this podcast, I feel like we need to put the disclaimer that we all have relationships still with Jesus, I guess independently, yes. Or yeah, sure. I can't speak for Michael, but I can speak probably for Alex and Frankie at least.
Yes.
But
you don't know me. Yeah, you do.
All right, bye. Just see you later. Insert stick figure here.
Insert stick figure.
There you go.
At least, okay, fine. Just speaking for myself, it's...
No, you're not.
We're going to talk about the mess. No,
you're
I'm saying
not just speaking for yourself. The thing is,
it's been a messy road, but
yeah.
We've seen the messy, toxic church culture that we're going to talk a lot about, and how mega churches and that whole thing is. I'm still skeptical about. But like, we all have our own relationships still, and we make jokes and whatever. But like, this is still something that's like a huge part of each of our lives, right?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Continue. Carry on.
Thank you.
So
Thank
little
you,
dicks. Oh, oh, sorry.
Dicks.
God, preachers, and little
dicks.
dicks.
Poor Stephanie's just like overload testosterone.
No.
I'm in a frat.
I just
boy.
haven't hung out with all of you at the same time in so long.
It's been a while.
Like,
So
Been a while.
since listen, that's not a church song, all right? So none of that.
Oh,
If you're gonna sing any secular songs, it has to be Creed, and that's about it. Maybe Hillsong. That's it.
Hallelujah.
Does Kanye count?
Evanescence.
Oh, Evanescence, 2 songs. That's it. We get off the rails on this already.
okay, yeah.
So before we get into the actual documentary, I do want to touch on why this documentary was kind of made. It does bring to the forefront the views of megachurches, which a lot of times, if I don't know how many of you are there from small towns or big towns, whatever the case might be, maybe you've encountered a church once in your life, maybe Easter Sunday that just passed, maybe you had to stop for gas, directions, whatever the case might be. In one shape or form, you probably have stepped into a church. Maybe some are bigger than others, and that's what this documentary was also trying to bring to the forefront. Mega churches, they do generally have a global vision and have a regional takeover model as far as like what they want to do. You start off as a small church, maybe in Australia in 1989, but eventually you want to grow into something bigger and spread the gospel of Christ and Jesus all over the world, all over your faces. So churches such as Hillsong, that's now. We have, maybe you've seen Pastor Joel Osteen on your church or your Instagram feed. Maybe you've seen Faith Assembly if you're from Orlando. That's a mega church that's there. That has a very huge campus. Or maybe you're lucky enough to have gone to one for many decades of your life called Centro de la Familia Cristiana or Internacional or whatever it's called right now. Either way, these are big, huge mega churches that maybe started with a congregation of 50 and have now blossomed into hundreds or thousands of followers and have that a loyalty or following or cult-like personality. And that's debatable for whoever is on this podcast as well, because, we still love Jesus. Now, we will go ahead and get into, I want to get a little bit from every one of you. Being in churches, being in the mega churches or in some type of larger church community, what was the vibe like with your, did you ever think about in the forefront of your mind what, like if you were in a mega church, did you feel you were ever in a mega church when you were in church? Did you ever feel like you have visited a mega church once in your life? And how does that compare to like a community church? You have like these little small dust churches here, congregations of 100, 200, and then right next door you have Faith Assembly or Centro with thousands and multiple services.
I feel like Centro, you can't call it a mega church.
It was a mega.
It was like a middle church.
It was like it wasn't like
it was
a little
growing.
Tiny church, but it wasn't.
But it was
they were
growing.
trying to get there.
Can you
When we went
say
there.
Can you say that it was a mega church for Puerto Ricans in Orlando?
Well, I would say
for
that
Latin
we
people
were
in
trying to
Orlando.
apply the principles
Of mega
that the mega churches were doing.
They acted like a mega church. They
You know what I mean?
aspired to be a
Exactly.
mega church.
Yes.
But as
Were
far as
they?
size,
Are they?
as
No.
far as size, no, because
but isn't
in
that the
all
goal?
honesty, yeah,
Spread the word, spread the gospel, get more people to love on more people to come together, right? For Jesus.
I mean, if you're talking about like the mega church Hillsong type, it's like get more money, but
Well, yeah.
get more money, make more money. Is anyone else watching the WeWork stuff? Because same vibes for me. Okay, we'll talk about that later.
I'm still a Christian.
I don't know what that is. Yeah, what is that?
Oh, Michael, you got to watch this show and the documentary. We'll do another one.
Okay,
It's good.
WeWork. So have you? Any of you guys? Let me ask you this: have you guys watched Righteous Gemstones? The TV show?
Yes.
Okay.
I just watch it when Alex is watching.
Oh, you haven't like sat down and watched
I
it?
get the
Like,
gist.
no, it's very
No,
much.
you've watched a pretty good
I've watched
amount
a lot
of
of
it.
it with him.
Yeah. So that I feel very much touches on what the megachurches were all about. As far as the forefront, you have the pastor, you have the family, you have the love of Jesus. We're gonna go out into the world and spread the gospel and the missionary work and all that stuff, right? But in the background, you are raking in, I mean, $1 million, $500,000 in just offerings, depending on like how big your church is. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of that, and I think a big thing of it also has to do with that it's tax free, essentially. You're tax exempt because of these laws that you can, basically take advantage of. But that's neither here nor there. What I want to know is, what is your experience being in church? What was it? And I'm not saying that we have slipped and fallen, but what would you say as far as that church vibe kind of, or maybe rubbed you the wrong way? Of course, we were all in church in different ages of our life. So for me, it was maybe like cliques and stuff like that, and not feeling like you're in that awkward social age in middle school, high school, trying to find yourself, trying to find your identity, trying to find your voice. And it just felt like, I don't know. I felt like I was always, I don't even know, like forced to go to church.
Well, I mean,
Being a pastor's kid, but I don't know. I
you
don't
were
know. Like
forced.
everybody had their own. That's why I'm very curious from each one of you. Like, we were all brought up very differently in that church and in different times. Like, even when I left, Alex was still there and stuff, and he had his own, with in soul spec and all that, all that stuff. Like, I was not there. I wasn't even in church. I was like either at a different church or just moved away, whatever the case might be. So he had a different experience from church than I did. So I just want to know what everybody's.
Should we also put the disclaimer out there that we all grew up in the same church for those who don't know us?
True.
Yeah.
True.
Yes.
Okay.
Like, that's what we're sharing our experience within the same place.
Within the same place. Yeah.
Well, what I think is going to be what's fascinating for me is that we all grew up in the same church, whether different timelines or not, but we all had a different experience, and that's normal, right? Everyone's going to have their own unique experience, but there are things that, like Stephanie, you have opened up about, and Alex and Michael, like you guys have opened up to me in now, or like later on in life, like, what, that was going on? Wait, what, that was going on? And it's like the deeper you get involved, and if you're a pastor's kid, you'll know more than the attendee who just comes on a Sunday. It's like my rule: I'll never work for Disney World, because then I'll know how the magic is made, and I don't want to know. I want to believe.
So do you feel that's a driving factor of like religion and belief? Like, you have this faith and you're in the church and you're in this community and you feel belong to, and you feel this magic, like you say. Do you feel that applies? Is that why a lot of people then stay in the church, even though maybe it's not?
Everyone needs a tribe. Everyone's looking for a tribe.
Okay.
Everyone wants to feel part of a group. Nobody wants to feel excluded. But even when you're in the group, you want to stand out afterwards and be special. So it's kind of like, damn if you do, damn if you don't. But you can be, even if you don't go to church, you're part of a different group that doesn't go to church. You know what I mean? Everyone's in a group at the end of the day. We just all want to be loved.
Alex,
and I think what you're saying in terms of on Frankie's side, like, because when you work at Disney, it's different than being a guest there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's different. If I were to say that maybe my experience would have been different if my dad wasn't a pastor and said I grew up that way and I just was a person, going to church willingly, if that makes sense. So I think for me, like a lot of my early years, for sure, I didn't really have a choice. It wasn't really a decision that I ever really made. It was just something that was every Sunday you knew you had to get up, you knew you got ready and you went to church, and that was it. Like, it was just something that was like ingrained in me, if that makes sense. And I mean, I recall one time specifically where it was that way, to the point that there was one Sunday that we decided to go to Disney World instead of church. And me and my sister one time were in the back seat and we were singing like the Mickey Mouse song. We were excited about it. We were like just hyped to go to Disney. We didn't know anything else as far as the day, just Sunday or any day. It's fun to go to Disney, right? Yeah, I just remember my dad specifically turning around and saying, you don't worship Mickey Mouse, you worship God. Like, so you need to like focus on, just be grateful that today that you're able to go to Disney, if that makes sense. Like if God made that a possibility. And to me, like that's sort of, I guess, some of the toxicity that I dealt with when I was growing up. And like even the experience, like Michael was saying, I eventually started going even after he left. And even then, like I guess for me, like I never really ever went to church for myself until now, like until the age that I am now, where it's a conscious decision for myself to say, I want to actually go and I actually want to experience this for myself, and like to be able to trust someone again. It took me a while to get to that stage, I guess, like because the church that I go to now, like Frankie was the one that kind of sent me videos and things like that. And eventually I decided to go check it out, and, and I love it and I'm still going. And to me, it's a different experience when you make that decision for yourself, if that makes sense. Like, I don't think I ever got that chance. I don't think any of us did, probably a lot of us in this room, I don't know if I'm speaking for everybody, but I know that for me, like it was like just an everyday thing. Like it was ingrained in me, and not just Sunday. Like it was, if there was practice on a Wednesday or, for the service, then I was sitting there in my dad's office or running around the church, trying to find something to do. So it was like, it was like a very much something I did a lot of the times, but it wasn't something that I necessarily wanted to do, I guess. I never really got a choice in the beginning. So that's what I can say, at least.
I mean, I don't think we get a choice when we're kids, but then it comes to a point, like you said, when we become an adult, like it had to be a point for me in college where I had to decide, now, am I going to church because my dad is making me, or my parents, or it's like, I'll get in trouble by them, or am I going just because I want to go? Like, am I believing in God because that's what I was told to believe in, or do I actually myself make the decision to believe in God? Like, that was a journey I had to go through when I left Centro.
What about you, Stephanie? You haven't said too much.
I try not to talk over them because you guys all know I talk a lot. So I'm just making sure. I'm trying to be a better listener, guys. Like I'm trying to
okay.
Look at me growing. Therapy must be working.
Therapy gang.
Air horns. But seriously, no, it's interesting always to hear other people's experiences and perspectives, especially in the same place that we all kind of grew up, because like Alex said, like it was something that just was. It wasn't ever, it's just, this is what we do. This is like, as soon as you are aware, like I don't even remember. Like I remember, so my parents have been divorced pretty much my whole life. And like my first memories of like spending time with my dad are going to his church, like going to Centro. And like I was little, and I would just go to kids' church. That's Frankie trying to distract us all. No, I'm just kidding. You can say it on the mic. You don't have to chat it away. Anyway.
This is the way.
Exactly. Okay, thank you.
The joke is late, very late now. But yeah, it's like our parents
I love
are like,
that you
this
raised
is the way.
your hand.
I wanted to do that the whole time.
But no, it's true. It's true. It just was. So like we just went to church. And I went to like a Christian elementary school, and it just was, that was my life. And so when we, get to that, when I got to college age, I'm kind of skipping ahead, but when I got to college, I was like, I'm not going to church. Like, there's no way. I'm done. I'm free. Because the thing is, like I would go every other weekend to Central with my dad as a kid. But then once I reached like middle school age, like Frankie said, like everybody's looking for their tribe. Everyone's looking for their people. You want your friends or a church. And like, it's the cool thing to do to like, especially like youth culture. It's like, it's cool to love Jesus. Like, but then they like, then this is a subject for like a later part of this podcast because I got a lot to say about it. But the things that they're teaching you, your minds are very, what's it called? You're just learning how life works.
It's a sponge.
Yeah, you're a sponge. Exactly. Yeah. You're a sponge. And like, it's very easy to misinterpret certain things, or it's very easy for other people to use certain teachings and Bible verses and messages to their advantage to get you to do something that's extreme. That's not like how things actually should be. It's just like scaring you into doing everything right. And like to this day, literally, I'm talking in therapy every other week about my fear of doing things wrong. That's literally what I'm working on in therapy right now. Like I have like this insane fear of making the wrong choice or like doing things the wrong way. So all this to say that like I genuinely, when I reached that middle school age, I wanted to be super involved. I was going to church all the time. And then like my dad was, I wasn't a choir kid. I was like a worship band kid, and I like loved to sing. And one thing I wanted to like really say is the thing is that like when you want that sense of community, when you're first joining a church or like first really understanding like what it is, what Christianity is, or like giving your life to Jesus, like you're all in. You're like a baby Christian. You're ready to go and like on fire. They always call it like on fire for God. But it's when you're at that stage in life, it's so easy for your willingness to serve to be exploited. So like, it's just so easy to be taken advantage of in the sense of like your time, your, your gifts, resources, whatever it may be, they're going to take it all at that point. Or that was our experiences that we did. So like I, was on the worship team. I wanted to like do all this stuff. But I was at one point, because my dad was in the band and I also was doing youth worship, I was at church Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Like it was more than a full-time job. And then I was like in high school. And then I was in the worship team, like with the adults, and you're held to a higher standard, and God forbid you're 16 years old and you mess up. Like, so it's just like, that was my whole life until I graduated from high school, and I was like, bye. And I didn't want to go back.
It becomes
like,
too
I'm
much.
done.
It becomes too much.
I was burnt out. It's like a job.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of like anything though, like in terms of like when you're saying that age, like when you think about certain friends that you have, like just groups that you're in, like sometimes you just try so hard to do whatever they're doing just to like fit in, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And I've had friends like that. I can say for sure when I was in high school that like I did a lot of stupid things that like thinking back, I was like, wow, like because I was just trying so hard to be a part of that community or just be accepted, you know what I'm saying? So I think that that's kind of what you're trying to say. Like in terms of church, it's like, you're willing to do anything, and they're willing to exploit you for that reason. Like whether that means shaming you for making a mistake, whether it be like sneaking out to the baseball field across the street in the diamond like Michael did.
Can we reference that episode? What episode is that?
That was episode, I believe, 48. Yes.
It's your bibliography inside your cite that source.
That's 48, 47, who knows? One of those two. We talk about church and sneaking out into baseball fields. Frankie, what do you need to say?
But on the flip side, it's almost like instead of falling into the peer pressure of like, doing drugs or being with the bad kids, whatever it's that is.
The peer pressure of making commitments.
But yeah, it's the peer pressure of, being involved in youth ministry. But at the same time, if I wasn't involved in youth ministry the way I was, if I wasn't there Sunday and then Tuesday and then Wednesday and for midweek service, for rehearsal, for the weekend practice, for the dance routine, for the Christmas special, I would probably would have gotten into other things that maybe a 16-year-old shouldn't have, you know? So that, the devil's advocate, you know, I'm a Libra. I'm gonna balance all
But
this out.
also, there were kids at church doing both.
Oh, doing worse.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm glad that was your experience. It was my experience, but in my experience, it also shamed me into being too afraid to like actually live my life.
I understand. I do understand what Frankie was saying, because that was something that was indoctrinated not only in church but also in school. Like, hey, you need to get involved into a club or get involved into sports or whatever the case might be, just to keep you off. Yeah,
so you're not on the streets.
It's your extracurricular,
being crazy or doing whatever.
You know, if you don't give a kid an assignment, a task to do, they're going to figure out their own entertainment, and that's usually a really bad problem.
I just don't understand, like, where that. I mean, maybe because we're so in the church, like, especially, like Alex was saying, 4 or 5 days a week you're in church. I couldn't wait to be out of church because I wanted to get into things that 16-year-old kids were doing, which would include like play PlayStation and talk on the phone with girls or whatever the case might be. Like, it's just, and a
you can say
landline,
kiss girls.
Kiss girls, yes, in my closet. Yeah. It's fine. So I just wanted to do things of that nature. It wasn't anything bad. It was just it's part of a childhood. I felt like that's the whole thing. Like, I understand Frankie's point. Like, you don't want to get into trouble. You don't want to get on the streets. But I honestly don't feel like we're in a community in Central Florida where gang violence was running rampant for 14-year-olds that left Centro. Like, I felt like it was something. I almost felt like a childhood was kind of taken away from me in my timeline as well. Like, there were things that I was deprived of. Like, I didn't watch a scary movie unless I went to my buddy Omar's house and I snuck out to watch Scream. I wasn't allowed to watch any scary movies. I didn't watch anything. There were things that I couldn't play a video game. I couldn't, like, if Mortal Kombat was on TV and he was playing that, I was like, oh man, I can't even watch your TV screen, because
we couldn't play GoldenEye, bro. Remember?
We couldn't play any
GoldenEye?
Yeah, we couldn't play GoldenEye.
Oh dang, you guys had
couldn't play any fighting. Yeah,
dude, we couldn't
watch
listen.
Power Rangers.
Couldn't watch Power Rangers. Yeah.
I couldn't even listen to secular music, bro. Like, that's how I'm telling you, when I'm talking about ingrained, it was to the point where, like, when me and you did music in high school, like, this is the first time I was listening to Biggie. This is the first time I was listening to, like, A Tribe Called Quest or certain artists. Like, I never even had a chance to, like, really explore other things. And it's not necessarily like that I'm saying that that's always a bad thing, but I feel like at a certain point, like, whether you want to or not, your kids are going to find a way to explore these things. So why not, like, in your own way, like, look at them beforehand? Like, this is something that Omar talks to me about all the time. Like, with his daughters, like, he'll literally, if there's a movie or something they want to watch, like, he'll watch it ahead of time or read about it and determine whether or not it's something that he feels they're fit to watch, that type of thing. So at least you're trying to, like, meet them halfway, and then if not, like, explain to them why it's not acceptable. Not just, you can't play that game because
like, what about it
from the devil, or because there's shooting or guns involved, like, because that's always been a thing in terms
Harry
of
Potter.
Like, Harry Potter, a lot of stuff.
I watched that finally.
Stuff, yeah. Did you? It's just like to Alex's point, he got into music, like you said, back then because it was something that was depraved. I'm now doing digital cinematography for school because I'm in love with film. I'm a cinephile. I've always been into movies, but I was depraved of that when I was growing up because the only thing I could watch was, like, maybe
Bible,
American Tail, Five Goes West.
I could watch Star Wars here and there in context. I could watch VeggieTales all day, and that's about it. That was secular music to us, VeggieTales, okay? About hairbrushes.
Silly songs with Larry.
Yeah. Exactly.
I can sing you an entire
I'm sure.
silly song, like an entire, like, CD of silly songs.
You have done it. You had done it.
I have done it.
He's like, I can.
It's kind of impressive. I'm not gonna lie to you.
So you've done it. Don't do it again. Thank you. That's basically Alex's face right there.
It's shocking.
Yeah, but I did want to get your perspectives on like your experiences in church before we went into the documentary. Of course, this may be a two-parter. Who knows? We'll see. But I did want to get into this, of course, documentary. I know it's getting late, but again, Hillsong, a megachurch exposed. From a film point, I will say, from like a documentary standpoint, it wasn't the best made documentary. It just felt, I don't know. You watch documentaries on Netflix and you watch stuff on Hulu, whatever the case might be. It's very emotionally gripping, and there's a lot more facts presented than opinions. I felt this one's very opinion based, and I can see where people are, especially those in the Christian community that I've spoken to, maybe feel like they need to defend Hillsong because they're like, oh, these are just a few people that are coming forward. I'm like, these are a few people, but how many of the other people have not spoken up? These are just a few people. That's not the people that are coming out. People are like, these are just a few people. You shouldn't attack Hillsong for just the words of a few. I'm like, no, but what if they're hushing the many? You're victim blaming at that point also, and that gets me very.
I mean, it was already talked about even in the documentary, like
of course, yeah,
the kid that they tried to pay off, and
Which
years later he comes out about it and stuff, and it's
yeah.
Again, I just think like I do understand where you're saying it's opinion based, but there is a lot of facts in the stuff that they talk about.
No, yeah, definitely, yeah,
and a lot of it, like it only takes one person to really create an impact on how everybody views everything. And like at the end of the day, I still think, like Stephanie was saying earlier, like we might still, continue to go to church and have our own relationships with God outside of this. So I don't think everyone should just look at this and say that the reality is that this is how every church is, because that's not the case. But the allegations and stuff that's brought up is pretty intense for sure.
Yeah. And that's what we want to get into here, of course. So part one of the documentary, it's just a basic setup. You have the background of Hillsong. Like I said, it originated in Australia in 1983, founded by a Pentecostal pastor named Frank Houston. Has anybody here gone to a Pentecostal church and can describe to us in just a few words or actions what a Pentecostal church is?
No,
don't do it. Don't do it.
Edit that out.
Problematic. Cut that.
Just bleep him out.
Pretty much.
You sounded like the crazy frog, actually, to be honest.
I was going to say ponytails and denim skirts.
Ponytails
Yeah,
and denim skirts,
no shaving, no makeup, long sleeves, long skirts, no pants for the ladies.
Ballet flats.
Suit, not wearing a suit. You
No
still
earrings.
You gotta wear a tie. Yeah, boys did not wear earrings.
Or
girls.
no, definitely not.
Girls.
Girls couldn't wear earrings. Yeah. Boys, if you even had an earring, a hole in your ear, you're dead.
Oh my
perfect.
gosh!
You were a
Yeah,
demon.
it took
You're
me
a demon.
forever to get my ear pierced.
Yeah. I don't know how I got away with mine, but here we are. So
like
Pentecostal.
no
Oh, I forgot you had one.
Like
I did
no
have two,
skirts too. Like you had to wear jeans, and you couldn't shave your legs.
No, it was skirts. You couldn't wear.
You could not wear pants.
Oh, okay,
Women
that's-
could not wear pants.
Yeah.
So that's why that. Yeah, don't show any legs, basically. But yeah, don't even show the outline of a leg. It's just a skirt, just a
look
loose
like
fitting
an
skirt.
extra Roblox.
A potato
character.
sack. That's all it is.
Yeah.
A Roblox character. That's there we go. So
No curves.
no curves. So Frank Houston, of course, founded this church, and then his son Brian Houston, who we know of, takes over and looks to expand this church outside of Australia, but not only that, but just expand it in general. He wanted to
The
see
Vince
what was
McMahon.
Yes, he wanted to see what was happening in the world that he could go ahead and not exploit, but just he had a church of 200 members. He wanted to make it bigger in Australia.
He wanted to spread the gospel.
Correct.
Isn't
But he
that
wanted
what
to
the
see-
Bible tells us to do? Spread the good news.
Agreed. I agree. It does say spread the good news. It
But
does
for
not say-
Jesus, not for money.
and not for little
Amen.
boys. Correct. So we also went. I'm sorry, Stephanie. Your face. Uh, so I will say that Brian Houston, they showed, clips of other Pentecostal church and how they went overseas to America to see how other churches were doing it. What was happening in the 80s and early 90s around the United States that had people talking, that had people going to church, that had this religious revival in people, what got them into the doors. And they would show clips of other pastors, such as Benny Hinn, who's a local pastor here in Orlando. I think it was, what's it called, Orange something Christian OCC. I forgot what it stood for. Y'all remember what it stood for? Something Christian
No.
Center. I don't know. Orlando Christian Center, I think it was called. So OCC. That's where Centro was born. So that's basically that's how that works. Their Spanish ministry was run by this little known guy named Roberto Candelario, who decided to have a Spanish service after the regular service ended at Benny Hinn's church. So that's how Centro started. You're welcome. So anyways, Brian Houston sees all these people, Benny Hinn, Jim Baker, who, if you haven't seen the Behind the Eyes of Tammy Faye movie,
So
you are
good.
So good.
So good.
You are
So
missing.
good.
You're missing a gold mine of a movie. Like, that is
So good.
such a phenomenal movie.
Ugh.
Is it on HBO Max?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So if you have HBO Max or don't, just find a way to get it. Steal it from somebody. I don't know. Just go watch that movie. Great movie. So Jim Baker was a televangelist who, in the 1980s, he was actually imprisoned for fraud related to church fundraising back in 1989. So probably not the best example to emulate a church that you want to do and spread. So that was probably red flag number one for Mr. Brian Houston. So Hillsong then expanded over to the United States, opened up a few church locations in LA, and most prominently in New York City, right in the city. There's a little known person from Virginia. His name is Carl Lentz. He was a youth pastor at Wave Church, I believe it's called, Wave Outreach, something like that.
Oh, yeah, something like that.
Yeah. So Wave Church, and he was a youth pastor there in Virginia, and decided to go to Hillsong College to pursue his dreams of becoming a full-blooded pastor, because youth pastors, I guess, aren't real pastors. So you become a full-blooded pastor by going to Hillsong Church and giving them all your money. And then eventually Brian Houston sees this guy with his long hair, his nice looks and stuff like that. He's like, this would be a great poster boy for Hillsong Church, New York, and sees how charismatic he is, how well that he speaks, and how much he really preaches the gospel with confidence, and preaches the word, and is very relatable to, and also in line with like Hillsong in general. Hillsong at that time was only known for a lot of their worship and music. I know people that don't even go to church, but like their favorite song is Oceans. Like, that's how much of an impact
The
Hillsong
grip
has.
that Oceans has.
Yeah, on everybody. I mean, it's such a great, like, composed song, to be honest. I mean, the melodies,
Of course.
it's amazing. I mean, if you play that on a regular radio station, everybody's going to tear up. You could put that in the middle
ending of Euphoria,
or in the middle of A Star Is Born, and everybody will cry. It's fine. Like, you just put that in there, and it's such a great, amazing song that makes everybody feel a certain way, because they're like, oh, I feel like I'm getting in touch with my religion.
I mean, Selena Gomez was posting covers of that song.
Yeah. So that's that global influence.
I mean, you?
Did you laugh? Did you laugh? Oh.
Because you? Yeah, you. So we had Hillsong just known for that, CDs and worship. That's it. And then we needed to expand.
What is a CD?
A CD? Oh my gosh! Don't act like you don't have CDs.
I'm just kidding.
Exactly. You have plenty.
It's a cyber disc.
A cyber disc.
Don't be Gen Z.
It's for the kids. You have to explain it for the kids who listen to your podcast.
Are compact discs that were played into mini record players that were digital, and you can burn them. And also, it had a 320 megabytes per second sound wave that was coming out of them, as opposed to vinyl.
Nerd.
Yes, thank you very much. That's their technical.
Fun facts with Michael.
Hello.
Like.
So
cut that.
So we had Carl Lentz, who was handpicked by Mr. Brian Houston to lead Hillsong New York as their lead pastor there. lo and behold, he goes into New York, goes into pastor mode. Everybody goes to the church. I went to the church 2014 and saw the way he preached, and he was just very relatable, more of a teaching aspect than a preaching aspect, which to me, that's how I like my church. I like somebody to teach me, give me things that are happening in my life currently that I can take, almost like a life coach. Tell me what I need to do, give me some advice, and tell me where I need to go from there. I don't need a call to Jesus, like, hey, come to the altar if you need Jesus in your life, whatever. I was kind of like over that whole thing because every Sunday, every Friday, every Wednesday night, every service ended with the same thing. And this is true. It's very tiring. I'm like, how many times can I come to Jesus? And I was just
How
like,
many times did I go up to the altar?
how many times can I go up to the altar
How
and
many times
just
did I get saved?
I
Again.
got a story about that.
again and again and again.
I'm born again, born again, born again, born again.
Yeah. So we're born, I don't know how many thousands of
Prestige.
times.
It's
How
like
many
Call
times
of
did
Duty.
they force
Prestige.
us?
Yeah.
Like, how many times did a youth setting make you feel bad enough during a sermon for
And
you to then go?
That is the whole thing too. It's like, how often do you see your friends going up there and then you're just sitting in the
Just because they like
seats,
made out with their boyfriend the week before.
Yeah, and they're like bawling their eyes out at the altar, and then you feel like you have to be a good friend and go up to the altar with them. Then it's like,
Or
well,
you
if I
want to
don't go,
cross the street to the diamond
Because if
field.
Jesus comes, he's leaving you.
yeah, because I'm not at this altar. Like, what if Jesus comes while this altar call is happening and I'm in my pew? Everybody gets sucked up into heaven.
I ain't taking that risk. I'm going up there. Yeah, let's go. I'm trying to double up. I got rollover saves.
So what about that? Like, you talk about like peer pressure, right? Of like
Here we go.
normal shit that teenagers are doing, like, doing drugs, having premarital sex, right? I'm like, what about the peer pressure of going up to an altar call? Like, to me, that's fucking extreme.
What if you were introverted?
Yo, the worst though would be when they would say, there would be altar calls when they're like, all right, we're not going to bow our heads. We're not going to close our eyes.
Everybody just look at each other.
Everybody just like raise our hand right now. If you
stare at each other.
How awkward is that? Like that you literally know everyone in the entire church is watching you. Like,
you were unashamed.
No. You know what was worse? What was worse is everybody bowing their heads and closing their eyes, and then people being like, nobody's watching. It is like a very specific sermon about a very specific sin. It was like, you can come forward, you can confide in us,
no
and then
watching.
everyone's shit talking you.
Yeah.
No, not even the people. I'm talking about the leaders.
Oh,
the leaders of the church, the pastors.
We know someone's in here. We know someone's in
here. Yeah, we know you're here. And then then you have to like step down because everybody thinks you're like a horrible person. You know what I mean?
Yeah. That I remember that part in the documentary that really like I was glad that they shed light on is people coming with problems or people who are involved, volunteers, maybe they're worship singers, and maybe they broke a rule, they slipped or whatever, or they're going through something, and instead of trying to coach them or let's walk with you through this and figure out how we can support you and find the help that you need. And maybe the pressure of you practicing every week and singing every week is becoming too much. I get that aspect of like, let's take a break. But the aspect of like, we need to remove you completely from the church because now you're tainted. And now you're going to make us
when you're like
bad.
Coming forward with like intimate details about your life that are nobody else's business, really. Like, truly, let's be real about it. Like, you're an adult at that. I mean, not in our collective journey at this specific church, but I'm saying in the documentary, the woman, she was an adult, right? And she just had a boyfriend, and she went to her pastor.
No,
I don't know if that was
she was 16.
Wait, I think she was.
Yeah.
Was she 16?
Yeah, at the time. Yeah, she was a youth.
Oh.
Yeah,
but they had like premarital.
I don't know, man.
Sex,
but then
she was a volunteer, honestly. Yeah.
But basically, that catapulted her into marrying her next husband.
Her next boyfriend.
Like a month, or her. That's what I'm saying. Sorry, her next boyfriend, like a
pressures
month or something.
fast.
Yeah, because
they got married
sex.
really fast because they had sex, and
Yeah.
she was like, "Oh my god, I can't let this happen again." And that's like, that's bad.
Yeah, that was the whole thing that was presented at the end of part 1 there, where she came to Lentz, who was a youth pastor, and basically said, "Oh, did you guys use protection? And that was a line. Like, did you guys use protection? And she said no. Oh, or she said yes. And then he was like, oh, so this was premeditated.
It's premeditated, yo.
And
That
instead of
sent me.
Yo, that I got hot. I was like, this bitch. Oh no. No, you know, like she's coming to her pastor
Of all people.
You know, of all people, and shame her more. Like she's already feeling shameful. Dang, man.
Yeah, and for what reason? For having.
But the guy was struggling. Yeah, the guy was struggling with himself.
Which
it's
is
like he was preaching to himself. All those sermons about, you know, be pure, be pure, be pure. Don't look at this. Don't look at that.
That's and what they dig into you. Purity above all else. Perfection above all else.
That's because a lot of times they also, whatever they're going through, I can remember there were times where either my dad was probably going through something or something was happening in my family. And then the next week, there'd be a sermon about, oh, this experience that my dad had, that, you know, oh, maybe some of you have had this experience. This is a story I had to tell, blah, blah, blah. Oh, my son did this last week and haha, you make a joke about it, blah, blah. But then it's like, but in reality, you think about it, and this relates to premarital sex. Like, oh yeah, my son, you should have saw him the other day. He was in the kitchen on the phone with this girl. He paged her, and then they talked on the phone for 2 hours. But it could lead to premarital sex, so don't do it.
Yo, is this true story?
It's true. Yes, there were actually sermons that people would, like my dad especially, he'd be like, yo, like this story happened, and I'm aware of it because I'm in the audience. I'm listening to him preach. I'm like, oh my God, he's going to tell this story. Like I'm sitting there just fucking embarrassed. I'm like, oh my God. He's going to talk about he's going to talk about like the time I went to Disney or the time I messed up on my grades or I crap my pants, like something like that, you know? Like anything he could turn into a sermon or a story. And then I'd be sitting there in the audience and like everybody on the youth like would just look back at me. Like that was the most awkward thing. Like, oh, my son Michael, and everybody like, what these?
My son is failing all his classes, but the only one who can grade you is Jesus.
Exactly. That's exactly what he would say.
Hey yo,
no lies detected.
I used to love that though because like I wasn't good at school, so like I was like, it's all good. I got straight A's in heaven.
Yeah, so it spoke to you there. It spoke to you.
You guys were like 2 generations before me in youth. Mm-hmm. And by the time it got to us, it was just like,
oh yeah,
don't touch each other. Don't look in each other's direction until there was somebody in the church. Hold on. There was somebody in the church that literally was so praised because she met her boyfriend in high school and then they didn't kiss until they got engaged or like something crazy like that. Like they were waiting to kiss, like something extreme. And like they were praised, they were called out in the church, like be more like blank and blank. And those people are still married.
Do they kiss now or no?
They have 4 children. So
they have been kissing, yes. A lot of kissing.
So
our culture.
But it's like be just like them, be pure, and then it's like I can tell you 6 different people from that church youth who married each other from the youth who I'm sure just wanted to bang.
And they're not together now.
Oh, some of them have been through divorces. Some of them had like 3 kids by like 21. Like,
well, that's kind of like what Frankie was talking about, like with that one girl, like that she came forward and then she had like all this shame and she got married like right away. And then she like was in this relationship yet unhappy the entire time.
And the thing is that nobody's teaching you about sex, so you immediately get pregnant.
Because you're not allowed to talk about sex in church.
No, God forbid.
That's a problem.
Yeah. You're not about it. So apparently you're not allowed to talk about sex at all in general in life.
Yeah.
Like no one has any kind of education, sex education. God forbid. So del diablo.
Thank God for Netflix.
And then all these women are getting punished for getting pregnant. That's another podcast. Sorry.
You pregnant.
But do you think maybe they were pushing this purity so strong because they were trying to lower the percentage of young Latin, maybe women or teens pregnancy? Because it was like almost a thing. Hey, she's 16. Guess what?
Teach them about ovulation cycles.
Exactly.
let's teach them about how babies actually happen, because I know grown-ass men that don't understand female biology or ovulation.
It's a mystery down there.
It's a mystery.
Y'all got layers.
Well,
What
the
do I do with
reality,
this? Oh,
the
boy.
reality is, I feel like a lot of the problems is going to what Michael said. They're projecting the issues that they are internally dealing with onto other
others.
people.
Yeah.
Like that's really what it is. It's like when you think about, and I don't like to talk about certain people, but I know certain people that were in leadership roles that Stephanie's talking about, and they talked about in their own sermons how they dealt with, struggles and pornography and certain things like that. And the reality is like, you maybe are struggling on your own, and that's fine, but it doesn't mean that everyone else's story is your story, So it's fine to preach about those things and bring it forward. If anything, that's what needs to happen. Is there needs to be open dialogue specifically about what is going on, and that it's okay to struggle and to make these mistakes and to learn from it, and that's one thing, like in terms of our pastor now, like I respect that about him, that he is a real person and that he's come forward and, admitted about, struggles in that area of his own life, and a lot of people don't like to talk about that because maybe they feel like less of a person, but that's just, the reality is everyone struggles with things, but we shouldn't be shamed about it, because at the end of the day, if we go by what the Bible is teaching and what these people are trying to portray and spread around the world, like we've been saying, it's that no matter what, we're forgiven for what we've already done, right? Or what we're going to do in that sense. So, I mean, I think it's still okay to educate people, but it doesn't need to be like force fed in a way
Or
that,
in a shameful way.
Exactly.
Shame
Frankie,
wizard.
Did you have something?
No, I mean, it's tough for me because I always see like the devil's advocate of it all, because there, as much as like, yeah, Hillsong, the explosion, is that even a word? Explosion?
Exposure.
The exposure. But maybe I'm a little French and I say explosion. No?
Explosion.
Oui?
Then
No.
wouldn't it be expose?
Oh, oui, oui.
Oh.
No,
Oui, PP.
everything in the dark comes to light, right? Isn't that scripture? Right? Everything in the dark comes into light.
That was
So,
in Star Wars.
and I didn't realize that. Learned so much being
the only movie that Michael could watch as a kid, so he
Correct.
knows every
That's my
line.
Bible. Yeah.
because it was clearly, like good versus evil. Anything that was clear good versus evil was okay.
Mm.
I wonder how Moonlight would work.
Oh, God.
When we were kids,
It would not.
that would not. That's okay, but at the same time, I needed that. I needed church. I needed a safe place. I needed a community. I needed youth camps because, like, my small little church, like I had to deal with the trauma of having some kind of Royal Rangers, whatever, dude, family friend, decide to like little dicks.
Yeah.
Don't worry, I go to therapy. Don't worry, I've worked this out. Like, yeah, I'm part of the statistic of going to church and getting my penis fondled by a leader or a man of God, if you will. But then to move away to a whole nother city, Orlando, Florida, and then finally go to a different church. This is a whole different, from Baptist to like non-denominational, or leftover charismatic Pentecostal. But I found comfort in a youth camp and youth group and finding kids and hearing message. It was a pastor, a guest pastor who talked about molestation. I didn't even know what the word molestation, I didn't even know what happened to me. I was like, oh snap. But then they started talking about Jesus and how he can wash your sins and how he can heal your broken heart. And that was the first time at like 13 going, well, now I want to come to church because I want to go to church, not because my parents are making me go to church. And I found comfort in that. I found healing. There were some counselors who were good, who weren't trying to follow me or take my money, or take advantage of me. Now, granted, deeper you go in there, now you're part of the culture of you're part of the staff now. You're a Disney character now. You know what I mean? You're in the meetings, you're there almost 7 days a week, like Stephanie was saying.
And your willingness to serve is being exploited.
Exactly. And that's what I think. I like that the documentary shed light on that, because that needed to be fixed. And I think a lot of churches today, like I feel like the church that we go to today, have like learned from the previous generation of like, they're trying to apply new things. Like church is always late to the game, you know, how to run things. At the same time, it's hard as to believe, but church is a business. So, you know, how do we keep the light on? So we need offering. Well, how do we get people to give more offerings? We might need to do more lights and more specials and more music and more reason to bring people, you know? And
but
then I think you get caught up.
Where's the fine line? Here's a good point, right? Like my question is, because you're talking about the business aspect, and this was something that really stuck out to me about the thing, and I don't want to skip ahead because I know Michael's breaking down everything, but like they really talked about Hillsong and how they were established and had multiple LLCs under multiple names and were laundering, you know, money, a ton of money, you know, in a sense. It wasn't small loads, you know, like you're talking about keeping the lights on, you're talking about, you know, water running, you're talking about basic necessity of a business. That makes sense. But when we're talking about like taking it to a level where your pastor's wearing Supreme outfits and Jordans and things that had just come out before they even came out, like where is the line that we're going to be able to draw to say, like, as us running a business, someone needs to step in and legitimately say, like, we need to look at like, you know how they have these people that were in the documentary that their job is specifically to look at mega churches and understand their business expenses.
Yeah, like that private investigator.
Or they need someone like that, like
to regulate that. Yeah.
Yes, to regulate things and to keep it to where if this is about keeping the lights on, and that's great, you know what I'm saying, but at the end of the day, like if you have extra money that's incoming, it shouldn't be going to like someone's pocket in that sense. It should be going
Preachers
to
and sneakers,
helping like
sneakers.
helping like your community, cool. Or helping, you know, people in poverty or people that are struggling with certain you know, like what you're preaching, it should be going in that direction, if that makes sense.
You can't be a hypocrite.
Exactly.
It's you sign up for that role, it's like, yo, you can't be tempted to be hypocritical. You got to commit full in.
This is my thing. This is what it all comes down to for me, at least specifically, if we're talking about like church experiences. My thing is, if like what I like about our church for the most part is that most of the people a lot of the people I've met, 99% of the people are genuine. They're genuine, and they're going to tell you about like, what you see is what you get, essentially, and they're not like afraid to live their life and then also love Jesus. Like they don't have two different like Instagram accounts, like, you know what I mean? Or that's like an extreme, but and also I've never met anybody that has two different Instagram accounts, one for church and one for anyway. Disclaimer. But my point is that like so many people, I think the common theme in like my church experience has been like just like creating an alternate life, this picture of perfection. This is like, I can't be seen as a human because I go to church. I can't be because you're serving, because you're in an elevated place, because you're a volunteer, because you are on the worship team. Like, God forbid somebody know that I'm a human being. Like, that's what brings people to Jesus. That's the whole point. It's seeing where you are and loving you anyway. That's Jesus. He's like started that. Like, you know what I mean? Those Instagram, Pinterest quotes of like, show me how broken you are and let me love you anyway. That's that quote to say Jesus at the bottom. You know what I mean? Like, it's so annoying when people try to create this perfect narrative of a perfect life. And if you're a Christian, then here, let me give you the secret. Let me give you the secret handbook of like how to never sin and pick a perfect partner and get married and have children and live the perfect life of like, here, when you became a Christian, here's all the secrets. Like, here's the key. All you have to do is do everything right. And the thing is that people will pretend. They'll ruin their lives to pretend, like, to keep that.
They'll bury it and hide it until it
like
exposes.
I just want to meet real people. That's it. That's all. I don't have time for fake people.
No,
Anyway.
I will say that in my year and a half, 2 years that I did go to Hillsong, New York, I also felt that connection with people. Like, I saw people that were dressing maybe like me, not like a typical Sunday with shirt and tie type deal where you were grown up from, you know, like you had that cool vibe. And I saw that being emulated around a lot of churches around the States. You know, you had like Elevation Church that came into prominence. You had locally here, you know, you had Journey, you had, what's the other one? That one that used to be in, I don't know, like Action Church, things like that. And you had this vibe of like, hey, come here, your community. Here you're accepted. Here, come as you are. You know, and that was the whole thing at Hillsong, New York. Like, come as you are. Are you gay? Cool. Like, come on in. And people never felt that way when they were going to regular churches. You can't go to like a Faith Assembly or go to, you know, another church down the hall, go to like TD Jakes and feel like, oh shoot, I'm gay. I'm not gonna be accepted in this place. You know, like they're gonna pray over me. They're gonna lay hands all over me. They're gonna dump a whole thing of oil all over me until all the gay is away. And I would see that in a lot of churches because, especially like New York and Hillsong, it was like, no, come as you are. Bring you and your boyfriend. Like, cool. Just come out and hang in, and you know, we'll talk to you after church and stuff like that. And they'll have these volunteers that'll talk to you like a regular human being. Like, hey, yo, what's up? Like, hey, did you see that new Spider-Man movie? Cool, man. Like, what brings you in today? Like, are you just down the thing? Yeah, do a flip. Yeah.
But it's this.
Yeah, just a hair flip. Just a hair flip. But it was
problematic.
Yeah. You had people coming to the church and like whoever you were, no matter what your background was, no matter what problems you were having, like you were accepted. And that was a very attractive thing for anyone who hasn't stepped into a church in a while. Or maybe grew up in a church and then later on had a, what they call a backslide, and then go to a church where they're fully accepted for who they are, for how they dress, for all their tattoos, for all their earrings and all that stuff, right? So you had that realness
then
and
it
that
became a
genuineness.
brand.
And well, that's the whole thing. At what point does do these churches then become that brand? And to that point as well, like you talk about, Alex was talking about, you know, all the funds and the money that goes here and there. That's a whole nother issue that I have as far as like preaching this prosperity gospel that so many preachers and pastors like to preach about. Hey, you want to be successful, you want to make money, you want to be this and that, you have to tithe, you have to give to God, you have to give your 10%, you have to give even more, you have to give your resources, your time, and then you're going to see me ride in this jet, and then I'll drop a dollar bill out of the window for you, and then you go to the ground and pick up that dollar bill, and then that is your gift from God. For me, that doesn't ever sit right with me, and I've seen it so many times. I see it with so many pastors with their megachurches that it's just, what prosperity gospel are you preaching? That like, when does it trickle down the little pyramid to me? And I don't, and I think a church like a Hillsong or a Journey or anything else, as far as these trendy churches, like I said, I'm not saying Journey's a trendy church because that's, you know, whatever.
It is a trendy church.
It's a trendy
100%.
So there.
No, it is, but it's one of those things that like, that's why it's so scary to like still love to go, because it's trendy.
Yeah.
It's that moment of you're like,
sorry, finish your thought, Michael.
So where does it, yeah, so I mean, that's kind of falls in my thought. Like, where does that trendiness begin? Where if it was like a Hillsong and then it turned into your brand?
I'm not going to lie to you. It feels like I think now being like wanting to go to church, wanting to develop that kind of, and let me know if I'm not alone in this feeling, but like wanting that sense of community that you were that it was instilled in your heart, you know, from a young, like Frankie said, like not all of my experiences were negative. Not all of my church experiences were negative, and some of like I had really great, funny, hilarious times at church, and it was a lot of sense of community. Like Frankie and I became friends in church, and I mean, I had a huge crush on Alex in church, but we didn't talk to each other until like years later. That's a story for another day, but
his face.
No, but seriously, but part of me is constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. I'm always waiting for the disappointment.
Yeah.
I'm always waiting for it. I'm like, you almost don't want to get like too involved or too close because God forbid, like you're bamboozled, like you didn't see it coming.
It's the trauma. You know,
it's a trauma response.
People throw that all the time, but yeah, in a way.
No. But you guys mentioned as far as like that Preachers and Sneakers account though, like that bombshell that was dropped was crazy. I didn't, like Frankie said, I didn't know that existed.
You didn't know about it?
I didn't know about that.
I think Vettel used to follow it or something.
At first,
like
I thought it was like hilarious when I saw it. I was like, oh, that's funny. And then I was like, oh no, this is a problem.
This is a problem.
Like, no, wait a minute. Like, I mean, maybe it's just like the hip hop kid in me is just like, oh, that's dope. A pastor wears Supreme? Like, wow, you know, but I was like
TD Jakes wearing that and all that stuff, like Gucci bags and Louis Vuitton. Now, I'm like, oh,
was it gifted to them or are they buying it? You know, that's the difference. Like,
but what is that like?
But even if it was gifted to them, they would.
You know?
I would like. I feel like if I was the pastor and it was gifted to me, and I'm like, oh, this is really dope. It's so expensive. Thank you so much. I'm gonna gift it to someone else because I'm like, I'm a pastor. I can't be walking around the streets like this. Like, I gotta be
that, or at least you don't wear it when you're going out, like on Sunday service. You know, like if you're wearing it out on, you know, like let's say paparazzi takes a picture of you, whatever, like
with your shirt off.
You can't control that, you know what I'm saying? But
hugging Justin Bieber.
Yeah, I mean, but at the end of the day, I think like when it comes to that point, like that rubbed me the wrong way, 100%. Because
it's the Louis Vuitton Supreme jump like tracksuit for me.
That was $10,000 to $15,000 on resale price. Yeah,
there's a difference between trendy, like when we're talking about Journey or like churches like that. Like I understand where the appeal is for them and what they're trying to do, because I myself have seen it, like where, you know, sometimes I'm there and I'm like, this feels like I'm at a Kanye West Sunday service. If I'm being completely blatant with you in terms of the worship and what's happening in front of you and how everyone's dressed, like they're all dressed like Kanye West at a Sunday service or Kardashians. I'm not even kidding you. Yeah. I'm dead serious. But for me, it's like I know that now, me being older and where I am, and that this is a conscious decision for me to actually want to go to church. There's also a conscious decision for me to distance myself from people that I feel maybe are not there intentionally for the right reasons. And at the end of the day, I don't think there are people there that are malicious or have that intent, if that makes sense. I haven't seen it myself personally, but I think, you know, I think a lot of it is they're young, and if we're talking about a young generation and a sense of how people can use it to manipulate you, if all these people that are up there are young, it's not that they're being manipulated. It's just what they see in social media. They're all stuck in that world of what they see. And, you know, Kanye's coming out here making a gospel album, and now he's, you know, going to AMC theaters and showcasing this to people. And this is what a gospel thing looks like at Coachella. And this is what the young generation is all about. Then that's all they're going to want to know, or all they're going to want to emulate in that sense as far as fashion. And there's a difference between maybe wanting to emulate it in a sense of how you dress or how you look. But when your lifestyle is that way, I think that's a difference, you know, and they're not emulating it because they're not really wearing Yeezy stuff. It's just all
somewhere
Old Navy. No, a lot of it is Old Navy, like that
I didn't know Old Navy had a Kanye line.
What's that No, not
cool.
Old Navy in a sense. It's Gap. Gap actually has a relationship with him, but what it
Gap
is
has a Yeezy
A
line.
Yeezy
it's
line, yeah.
the color scheme of that.
Yeah.
It's the neutral Gaga rainbow.
Yes, the neutral colors. That's
mean,
what's in. That's just fashion, and that's
creating the
different.
brand.
You want to look like a hobo on the street, then cool. At least if they're not necessarily buying, and if it's the people that are worshiping wearing it, I'm pretty sure they're paying for that out of their own pocket, because they're not getting paid to be up there worshiping. If that's the reality of everyone in here,
Or they're wearing Gap, that's fine. But I can't fault them for that, because I mean, back in our days, well, back in my day, when we had church and we had people trying to get to church or well, my dad was a youth pastor and wanted to get people in, like, hey, like, what's a cool band to have here? Hey, let's call Out of
Yep.
Eden, because they sound like Destiny's Child. So let's bring these people in, so that in that way we could attract more people. So this has been happening for years. I mean, it works. You had groups like Petra. That was like this. I don't know if you guys remember Petra, but Petra was this old 80s glam rock, hair band that all sang Christian music. Like, that was it. But they were like the answer to basically Guns N' Roses, but the Christian version of it.
So
DC Talk, and DC Talk was always the Christian version of some other hip hop
You can
group.
tell
Run
Michael's
DMC
like the
type
older,
deal,
the older
yeah,
end
for sure.
of the youth.
Oh, trust me, I still got my CDs.
Because mine was like Super Chick.
Super Chick, yeah,
Like,
Super Chick. That was the answer.
that was like
to,
Reliant K. It was like the same at the
mine
time.
was like
Reliant
Cross
K.
Movement and Tunnel Rats. KJ
And
LA
Pigeon
Symphony,
John, yeah.
Pigeon John,
like you
Tunnel
had.
Rats. Yeah.
So yeah, people were doing that. That's been happening in the Christian church all the time. Where
I don't.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Oh, I was gonna say I don't think it's necessarily like that they're using it as a way to get in, like to attract people. I think in this case, especially like Journey, like that's what's on. I don't want to say on brand, because they're not trying to follow the brand. I think they're genuinely being themselves. It's just like that's what's trendy right now.
No, it's just
like,
certain people that are there. Like, that's
it just happens.
I mean, I
to
appreciate
be
going to a
fine.
church and that the worship band rehearsed and they're
And they
not
sound good.
singing off key.
100%.
You know,
100%.
I'm like, hey, I'm here for the next hour, so thank you for
No,
trying.
that's not what I mean. That's not what I mean.
I don't want them wearing button-up shirts with like a tie.
I'm not talking
either.
about
like,
what they wear.
Yeah.
Because the first time I ever went to Journey, I walked in and I was like, yo, these people are like, they all look like they're friends. Like, first of all, they all look like they're friends with each other. And they're all dressed the same, kind of, in the same kind of trend. Family. Sure. Totally.
So when does it become a cult?
Totally. Oh yeah. See, that's the thing. I went in waiting for the other shoe to drop.
That's the ultimate
That's what
question.
I'm trying to say.
Yes, definitely. Because when you talked about it earlier, when you were talking about like this sense of community and want and the things that are taught to you and finding the perfect guide to life and stuff like that,
Yeah.
those are things that have been put into cult practices. And
I'm going to be 100. Yeah. Like, I had to step down from, because I started drinking the Kool-Aid or whatever, like being like, Alex and I started going to church again. I was like, wow, it feels so good to be involved. Like, that sense of community felt so good to have again after, because you remember it's like going through a breakup. You remember all of a sudden you start thinking of all the good times, you know, all the great moments you had, and it wasn't really that bad. And then like I was like, okay, maybe I'm ready to get involved again. And as soon as it started, I'm like, I don't want to spend 3 hours on a Thursday running this like this. It felt very much like, and again, to no fault of anyone else's, I still love like our church. I still love the people there. But personally, it felt like it was becoming another job. And I'm like, I'm not getting paid for this. And I'm so busy with like trying to heal, like be a good mom, be a good wife, be a good person to myself, love myself in general. Like it was so much to like, and honestly, it was like trauma coming back of like, be perfect for, you know, because if you want to serve, you have to be this certain person. You got to fit inside this box. And it's not, nobody was asking me to be anything but myself, but that was where my brain immediately shifted. It was, if you're going to be on the worship team, you're going to want to have to like, you know, post some more Bible verses or not curse, and it's not like Jesus still loves me, even like, because I say, like, even though I say fuck, like, you know what I mean? Like,
we don't say it on the
that's
we don't say it on the
okay.
podcast though. Like that's
You can bleep me out. That's totally
we never
fine.
say
But you
fuck
can
on the
say
podcast, no.
you can say baby dicks, but you can't say fuck on the
yeah, don't
podcast.
do that.
Oh my gosh. And on that note, no, just kidding. Can you imagine?
Yeah, no.
That's how we end. Like baby dicks.
No, but I mean, it's just like, yeah, I kind of was like getting into that vibe, like, oh, okay, here we go. Here's the other shoe dropping. Like, I'm gonna take a break from church all over again. But the thing is, at the end of the day, like, you have to separate. Church is always gonna be church. It's always going to be, this kind of church. It's always going to have that cliquey aspect. Someone's always going to be in a clique. Someone's always going to take it too
You
seriously.
can't be friends with everybody. You can't be tight with everybody. You're going to have your cliques.
But the message is still there. The message, you can always guarantee that it's going to be something, not necessarily you always need to hear, but a lot of the time it's something you need to hear. But it's truth. It's relatable, maybe again, not to you, but it's genuine, I guess is the word. And it's never shameful. That's the part that I like. It's never in shame. And I like that they have an altar call at the end, because I feel like that makes it churchy.
I mean, but they don't do it every time. It's not that's a difference.
Well, it's not like the old school where you leave.
You don't have to come down.
You walk down, and then they'll do that
don't have
once
pews anymore.
Or,
no, but not even just that. Just in general, like they don't make it a point. Like even on Easter Sunday, they didn't
pressure
make
is
people
off.
come down and stand there and try to, forgive your sins and all that. Like at the end of the day, if you want a relationship with God, like that's going to be a decision that you have to be willing to make. I think that's the point, is that like for a lot of us, it was something that we didn't really necessarily get a choice in the matter. And now that it is, it's a different sort of game in terms of like understanding that you're going for your reasons, and like, it's always going to be scary, especially when you see stuff like this come out, right? Because then you see like really the nasty side of how someone in a position of power that is supposed to be standing up there and telling you every single day and giving you a message that you have been fed and you have felt like really like resonated with you, and then you go back and then find out that the dad is literally a pedophile and going after like little boys. Like that's really weird. And then to know that his son is covering up a lot of it, and then to know that the other pastor is like literally cheating on his wife, and again, like it's always going to be something that it's very disappointing. And
we forget they're humans.
I think
well, that is the whole thing, that we do forget that they're humans, because if you think about any other
because they want us to forget that they're humans.
I mean,
that's the problem. If they came with the approach of, hey, I'm not perfect. Like, for example, like mistakes. Our pastor always talks about how where he struggles, and he's always sharing it. And I think it's smart because he's being ahead of it. He's not waiting for an article to come out later or a documentary to come out
and then
later.
It's gonna,
he's like, look, straight up, I am perfect. Hey, we're going to have a relationship. This is a brand new relationship. Let me tell you up front, I bite my nails. If that's a problem, you can leave, or if it's not a deal breaker, welcome to the biting of the nails. Dumb example, but that's how, like, I think of these pastors because they were coming from this era of just like, yo, you're really charismatic. And this is also an era where celebrities, we didn't know who they really were. We didn't follow them on Instagram and read their tweets. No, they were just only a CD of their preaching, a DVD of their preaching, or you saw them live in concert. I mean, Sunday service. And that's a distance. There was no personal relationship. It was like, I have to be this front. I have to show you that I am Superman, and I am a symbol of belief. If I fail in front of y'all, then all these people will fall. So let's cover up any of our mistakes so that we can be that example. And that sucks. That doesn't work in the long run, because I wanted to talk to somebody who said, yeah, man, I struggle with that too. Hear how this is what helped me get through it. versus like, oh, you struggle with that? Well, you need Jesus. You need to do this and you need to do that. No, how about you sit down and go and show empathy? Like Jesus, what was it? He was hanging out with the prostitutes, the tax collectors, yada yada yada, and like they're like, "What are you doing over there? Love thy neighbor, man."
But that's what
You gotta be like Tammy Faye and just love
that's a
people.
big
Love
thing
people.
that really has always been an issue for me, I guess, is like in terms of like preachings and stuff and things that I read when I was growing up and things that I was told in church was like accept everyone for who they are. And sometimes I just feel like that message is just completely lost in terms of, in terms of Christians that I've run into, in terms of, and I don't want to get political, but a lot of times Christians are Republican and that's just how they are. And that's how they treat things. It's like everything has to be this way or it's not the right way.
It's very
And
black and white.
It's a very
Yeah.
these are the rules and we need to follow the rules this way forever. So it's not necessarily like politics. It's just like this party falls in the category of following the majority of these rules. So we just need to blindly follow these people because they have the party that follows the rules. I've learned that that's the most simple way that I can put it.
We get follow the 10 commandments. Like we'll follow the 10 commandments, but the whole like wait till a year to get have a boyfriend,
and then make the same commitment at the camp a year later. It was every camp every year. Okay, everyone come down. We're gonna make a commitment. It's like, okay, when do I get to have a boyfriend?
Underage pregnancy, man. That's
but like teach about.
So when does this become a cult? Tell me when you say it's a cult.
I don't know, man.